Can you hear me? Please, if you're back, please drop a message and say, we are back, we are back, we are back, I'm here. Whatever it is, just drop in the chat box.
Thank you, Larry. We're back. We're here.
Okay, that's great. Welcome back. Hope we had a very, very nice break time. Stretch our legs and feel a bit more comfortable. All right, so we're going to get cracking now so that we just round up as soon as possible. Okay, I want to see everyone's. I want to see enough responses before I begin to be sure that we're all back on our system. So if you're back, just put back, or we are back. Yeah, so I'm back, please. Please, let's all respond, please. The responses would encourage me to proceed so that I know that we are all here, so that I don't just go ahead when we are not ready. Please, can I have more people to respond so that we can begin? Okay, all right. No worries, I think we can begin. All right, so this aspect we're going to be talking about secure coding standards. I've mentioned this earlier when we were talking about on how to build cyber resilient applications from the article I shared with us earlier. So how do you code securely? So this obviously, comes down to the secure coding standards. Okay, we all know that secure coding is essential to ensure, that the code is secure, is reliable. Now I'm reiterating what I said earlier, and it's free from vulnerabilities. And, by following the best practice, such as input validation, avoiding unsafe functions, using cryptography libraries, and keeping libraries and frameworks up to date, like we have our developers here, can ensure that their code is secure and free from vulnerabilities. That is key. That is key. So we are going to begin now. So you can see from the diagram, you can see on the screen, you see data input validation, authentication, and password access control. These are the things we've talked about earlier, but we're going to be having a deep dive into it, just to explain into it, and I would show example of codes on how to protect it. So this aspect of the presentation or the training, obviously, I know the developers will be more interesting for the developers, so that we secure our codes efficiently when we are developing them or writing them. Okay, we're going to begin quickly. From the list, we have input validation. Basically, it's the process of verifying that the user input meets the expected criteria and is safe to use in the application. That's just what it means. The user input is often a significant source of security risk. We know that. That one is always like a major thing for security risk, because every user input that goes in, definitely you have to be able to validate it. Is this correct? So like, how am I validating every input that is coming to my application? What aspect of the code am I using, that is validating every aspect, of this code. So for example, I'm just going to show a simple code. See this part of the code, obviously this was taken from one of the examples, learning how to, the security bits of this code. So you see, when a user enters a credit card in this code you're looking at, right? Or card number or what have you, the input should only contain digits and no special characters, right? And you see that using the regex, I know the developers will understand what this means. So to validate the input, developer can use it. These are built-in classes. These are built-in classes. in I think in Visual Studio. These are built-in classes, such as regex, to ensure that the input meets the expected criteria. All right, what are the inputs? Okay, this method uses what? Regular expressions to check if the input string only contains digits. It returns a Boolean value indicating whether the input is valid or not. These are inbuilt classes that you can find on the Visual Studio. So if you're writing your code and trying to validate every input that comes, you can say, okay, fine, I don't want this to have special characters. If you want it to have special characters, you take off all the special characters here. You can see here, take them out, right? And then put just 2 columns in there. So these are the things you can do. All right, moving on. Okay, talked about that, regex. Number 2 is avoid using unsafe functions. So functions such as process of start, reflection, and deserialization. Okay, deserialization can obviously allow attackers to execute malicious code. Developers should avoid using these functions or use them with caution by restricting input parameters and using them only when necessary. Now, I want to ask a question. What does reflection, functions like reflection, I don't know if the developers are in their house. Can someone tell me what they understand by the function reflection? What does it mean to them? Any of the developers can just drop it on the chat, or if you want to speak, you can unmute yourself. If you have any of the developers or anyone who understands how code development works, just want to answer the function reflection. Anybody? Okay. Seems I'm not getting the response from those guys. Okay, so basically what it just does is that it just allows us to inspect and manipulate classes or constructors or methods or any field in the runtime. That's all it allows us. That's what the reflection allows us to. It basically allows you to retrieve metadata on types at any runtime at all. Okay? Okay, what about deserialization? Can anyone give it a shot? Among the developers, any developer that gets this first, maybe something will come out of it, but let me hear the developers, because these are the functions you use in your codes, obviously, and then is Shale on the call? I want Shale. Somebody is saying ability. Okay, that's reflection. Okay, that's coming from, imagine, even learn development guys are the ones even answering. What are our developers doing? Any of our developers? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, they're not
listening.
Was the question deserialization or serialization?
No, deserialization. Okay, now what I want you to do is that, can you define serialization, right? Then deserialization, because obviously one is the opposite. Deserialization is the opposite of serialization. So let's define serialization. Then you know what serialization and deserialization is. Okay.
Okay, so yeah.
That's cool.
No, not yet. I'm trying to answer the question. Yeah. Okay, so
serialization.
Yeah. Serialization is like when you're converting. Let's say, for example, I use C#, so you're converting C# objects, right? Yes.
Perfect.
I'm answering the question. So you're converting objects to JSON format, right? Then serialization is just the opposite. When you're converting the JSON format back to the object.
Perfect. Yes. Perfect. Thank you very much. Sorry, who just spoke?
You're welcome.
Who's that?
My name is John.
Person? John. Oh, John. Okay. Thank you very much, John. Thank you so much. Perfect. Yeah, that's basically what it means. All right. So I'm going to show you an example, basically, and obviously. Yeah. Sorry. Somebody saying something?
I said John is part of the developers. Sorry.
Yes, I know. Yes, I know. I think. Yes.
No, he got resumed. I don't know if you've met him, but.
Oh, is it not the mobile developer?
No. This just resumed.
Right. Okay. So don't worry. I'll definitely pay you a visit. I'll definitely pay you a visit to meet you. All right. Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much. All right, so John, obviously, and every other developer will be familiar with what I'm just showing on the screen now. So this example, instead of using the process start, right, just having the process.start, for a function, for an external process, you should always use process.startInfo property, to avoid arguments and security restrictions. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, that is actually better. So you can see if you use the process.startInfo, right? Because rather using an function to start an external process is always better to go in this format, just to prevent any sort of a clash in processes, if you like. Okay. The third one is use cryptography libraries. All right, so cryptography libraries such as Bouncing Castle, I'm sure we are aware of this, or .NET frameworks, which I believe strongly that our developers are actually working with. I know you're working with .NET Framework and .NET Core, if that's correct. Cryptography APIs, to provide a secure way to perform encryption and decryption operations. So use these libraries instead of creating custom encryption methods, which may be prone to vulnerabilities. All right, so what example am I giving on this one? So see, so for example, to encrypt a password, use the RFC, 28988 the right part. Are you familiar with this, by the way? John and every other developer, are you familiar with this? This class,
Yeah.
obviously, yes, you can find this on the .NET framework, because I know this is the framework we use in the bank. So you use this for cryptography APIs, and then obviously, the rest you're just. So what does the class do? It generates a salt and uses it to derive a key from the password. The resulting key is then used to encrypt the password. Okay. All right. So we move on. Number 4, follow the principles of least privilege. Okay, I think I can ask questions in this aspect. The principle of least privilege is a security best practice that restricts user or processes to minimum level of access necessary to perform their functions. Developers should follow this principle, then writing code to minimize the impact of security breaches. Okay, so I don't know, can anybody just share with me what they understand by the least privilege? The developers, what do you understand? Can you share a couple of the principles when you're talking about least privilege?
Okay, can I try?
Yes, please.
Okay, so what I understand is that the user should have access to exact resources they needed to use for a particular function.
Okay.
So that is what I understand by just to have access to a particular resource that you need to do. Not like you log into an application and you are seeing more than what you are supposed to see, or something that is beyond your function. You are a teller, you are supposed to see something that everything that relates with post and debit, not like you'll be seeing some other things that require approval or something like that. No, you see within your limits.
Perfect. Thank you very much. It shows that you were listening, because I'd already mentioned this earlier. Thank you so much, Ayo. Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to show you an image, obviously, I got from Tools Forever. It's a security platform, obviously, they talk about things like this. So if you look at it, it actually defines, obviously, what the principles of least privilege means. So the principle of least privilege states a given user account should have the exact access rights necessary to execute their roles, responsibility. No more, no less. I love that. It says no more, no less, like nothing more at all. No more, no less. All right, so it says the best practice. Number 1, make least privilege model the default all accounts. Make least privilege model the default for all accounts. Elevate privileges on a what? A situational and time basis only. Just like I said, just based on the situation or based on any circumstance, and the person comes to request. And then how long do you need this access for? How long do you need this thing for? Okay, fine. We'll give for so time. Let everything be time-based. Okay? Monitor and track all network activity. Every activity going on that application on the server or whatever, monitor everything. Adopt a flexible access management platform so that privileged credentials can be securely elevated and easily downgraded. Thank you very much, because I like this, because obviously these are the kind of things we monitor in the security system. Identify and separate high-level from low-level system functions. All right, what are the high-level system security functions? Identify them from the low-level security functions. You don't have to put everything in one box. Make sure you create different pools for them. So the ones that are actually more critical, like, thank you very much. Someone is saying segregation of duty. Fantastic. That is actually a very good one. So please always make sure you do that. Audit privileges granted to users. Audit privileges granted to users and applications regularly. We know the IS audit guys, they do this regularly. Even at security, in our security department, we do this a lot. We audit privileges. Obviously, I expect every department to always do this, you know, for their servers, their systems, data center, wherever you are, always try to audit the privileges. If you're the manager of the server, audit the privileges granted to users on that server, and make sure that you query whatever you feel you should query. Don't hold back. Benefits, obviously, create an environment with fewer liabilities and fewer vulnerabilities, by the way. It limits the possibility of data breaches, which is good. Protect against common attacks. You can take a screenshot of this if you can, because you'll probably be seeing some of them in your test, if at all. Protect against common attacks, you know, like SQL injections, you know, what have you. Data classification promotes a healthy network, which is very, very fantastic. Superior data security and audit capabilities. These are the benefits you find, you know, when you go with the principle of least privileges. Okay, are we cool with that? Can we proceed? Okay. Next, keep libraries and frameworks updated. You have to keep libraries and frameworks updated. This is very paramount to developers. Always keep your libraries and frameworks updated. You know, if you look at libraries and frameworks can contain security vulnerabilities, you know, they can be exploited by attackers. Yes, if you have your security vulnerabilities in your libraries, attackers can exploit them. Developers should keep their libraries and frameworks updated and the latest versions to avoid potential security issues. You know, for example, if let's say an application uses a third-party library, okay, and then let's say I don't, well, yeah, I'm trying to think of a vendor that would give us. Okay, let's just say they are using a third-party library, you know, which has a security vulnerability. The developer should always update the latest version of that library, okay, that addresses that vulnerability. Meaning you have to do research. You have to check when they send you anything, a third-party any library. Just check first. Like, is this library, you know, vulnerable to any sort of attack? So don't just say, well, okay, this is fine. They probably must have checked. Do your own check, do your own research, do your own risk assessment. Okay, that is the only way you can feel safer when you're coding. All right. So basically, that's just for all the frameworks you're using. Any sort of third-party application, just make sure that you always check. Next one, use a static code analyzer. A static code analyzer obviously is a tool that can identify potential security vulnerabilities in the code before it is executed. Use tools such as Visual Studio Code analysis checkmarks, which we have in the bank. You know, SonarCube to detect security issues in the code and fix them before deployment. All right, so our developers, okay, I think for now, we still need to integrate John to the checkmarks, but every of our developers who are available right now, they've been integrated to the checkmarks. However, one of the things we are waiting for them to do is to integrate their platform with the, what's it called again? Remind me of this. I need them to integrate. And I forget this. There's an integration we are waiting for them. Is Shay on the call, please? Is Shay on the call? Hello, Shay.
Let me call him into another meeting for DSS.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. So, okay, no worries. It's fine. So we are still waiting for feedback on that integration. Okay, sorry, is Azure DevOps. I don't know why it skipped my head. I'm trying to recall Azure DevOps. Yeah. So what they need to do is to integrate their code, their Visual Studio code to their Azure DevOps so that we can get real life check and test on their code. So to analyze the code real time. So we are still waiting for them. So the last time we checked, I think data center, they want delaying this integration. So once that one is done, so the developers can see the vulnerabilities firsthand as the code. They will see it firsthand as the code. So I hope they will push on this, and then we'll get that sorted as soon as possible. But yeah, for checkmarks, we do use checkmarks, and this obviously is very helpful. All right. So ASP.NET. I know this is one of our frameworks being used here in the bank. You know, C#. We know that the C# frameworks such as ASP.NET and .NET Core, you know, they have their coding standards. They have their own coding standards. You know, and as developers as you are, you should always follow these standards when developing applications. You know, using these frameworks. Number one, when you're using ASP.NET. Use the ASP.NET to build authentication system instead of creating custom authentication system. You already have the inbuilt one, right? Use the inbuilt one before creating one. At least, for example, you can use the ASP.NET, the identity system, to manage user authentication or authorization. Okay, except the need arises, use the inbuilt one. Except the need arises, use the inbuilt one. Number two, use ASP.NET built-in password hashing functions instead of creating custom password hashing customs. Again, I would say unless the need arises. Then, for example, you can use the ASP.NET password hasher, class to securely hash and verify passwords. For the developers, John, if any of this is not correct, let me know, please. But because I know that the ASP.NET, they have inbuilt classes that you can use to secure this. Number three, use ASP.NET's inbuilt anti-forgery token to prevent cross-site request forgery. We all know of this attack. For example, you can use the validate anti-forgery token to attribute rather to validate the anti-forgery tokens in post request. When you have the post request, if there's an attack, obviously with this in place, it would alert you. And finally, use ASP.NET's built-in output cache attribute to prevent caching of sensitive data. For example, you can use the output cache attribute to set cache policies for your web pages and prevent sensitive data from being cached. Okay. Now for the .NET Core. For those guys who are using .NET Core as the developer, I'm talking about the developers now. So, obviously we know this is an open source framework for building modern and cloud-based applications, right? So one of the couple of standards you can actually follow while using this one is like, number one, you can use it to the authentication, the built-in authentication system instead of creating a custom one, just like the .NET, ASP.NET rather. You can use the same thing for this as well. You have the identity system, the password hashing as well. For this one, you can now use the built-in data protection API to protect sensitive data, such as connecting strings and secrets. You can use that API one. So for example, you can use the data protection provider. This is a class the Visual Studio, this that you can use to protect sensitive data with the key. Finally, you can use the built-in health checks to monitor the health of your application. This is actually very, very, very paramount to everyone building applications. You always use this to check your applications, like to see if your applications will pass the test of time or if it's vulnerable. Always do health check. It is very, very compulsory that you do health checks. All right. Okay, so now I want to give us a couple of quizzes because we're going to be rounding up soon, and I want us to round up because I'm timing this to be at least if it's before 1 or 1 o'clock, we should round up because I got a message from some people that they have a meeting later on, and I also want us to make sure that we get the best of this training and at the same time You know, whenever we are asked upon or we are called upon on things like this, we have an idea of what it means, and then we are able to implement them, not just by listening, you know, so where we can implement this in our everyday, you know, assignment. Okay, so we are going to go into a couple of quiz questions. Hello, do we have any question? Is that someone asking a question? Hello? Okay. All right, so I'm going to give us 5 quizzes, and whoever gets the 5 correctly, obviously, would get I'll send an airtime to that person. Person will get airtime. Whoever gets all 5 correctly. So learning development, please, I want you to monitor the answers coming into the chat group. So the person who gets it correctly, obviously, we need to be able to check the person answering first. So we're going to start in 3, 2, 1. So we're going to begin with the quiz. Number one question, sorry. Number 1, why is regular patching and updating of software important for web application security? A, to fix security vulnerabilities and bugs. B, to improve user experience. C, to prevent unauthorized access. D, to increase network bandwidth. Your time starts now. For each question, I'm just going to give you 1 minute, then I'll switch to the next one. You have 5 questions. So I'm going to read the question again. Why is regular patching and updating of security of software rather important for web application security? A, to fix security vulnerabilities and bugs. B, to improve user experience. C, to prevent unauthorized access. D, to prevent network bandwidth. Let's go. Please drop your answers. Learning and development, please help us monitor the person, the right answers. And at the end of the quiz, I want to see the name of the person with all 5 answers correctly. And obviously, the fastest finger wins this. Okay, are we answering? Why is regular patching and updating of software important for web application security? A, to fix security vulnerabilities and bugs. B, to improve user experience. C, to prevent unauthorized access. D, to increase network bandwidth. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now the answer is A, to fix security vulnerabilities and bugs. I mentioned this earlier when I'm talking about how to build a resilient application, cyber resilient application. We mentioned this earlier. Question 2. Which security mechanism encrypts data transmission between a web browser and a web server? Every single person should know this one. Which security mechanism encrypts data transmission between a web browser and a web server? A, DNS, domain name system. B, IPsec, Internet Protocol Security. C, HTTPS or HTTP Secure. D, XSS, cross-site scripting. Okay, let's go, please. Let's answer A, B, C, or D. Which security mechanism encrypts data transmission between a web browser and a web server? Come on, guys, let's answer. I'm only getting few responses. Come on now, didn't we? Yeah, we listen to this now. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. We talked about this earlier. All right, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. This is a very common question, so we should know this one. All right, we have 10 seconds to go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4,
6, 5, 4.
3, 2, 1. All right. Okay, the answer is C. The answer is C, HTTPS, and that's HTTP secure. Now, number 3. What does the principle of least privilege mean in web application security? A, granting excessive permission to users. B, limiting user access to only necessary resources. C, sharing credentials among multiple users. D, allowing unrestricted file uploads. Let's go. A, B, C, or D? A, granting excessive permissions to users. B, limiting user access to only necessary resources. C, sharing credentials among multiple users. D, allowing unrestricted file uploads. Okay, I can see some correct answers. Let's go. Some answers are not. Oh, wow. Okay. We are not responding, guys. Let's respond. Let's respond. We are rounding up. Let's respond quickly. What does the principle of least privilege mean in web application security? A, granting excessive permission to users. B, limiting user access to only necessary resources. C, sharing credentials among multiple users. D, allowing unrestricted file uploads. Guys, let's go, let's go. I know we have more than this number of people in the house. I'm only seeing just few people responding. We have over 20 people, but only 5 people, 6 people are responding. Guys, let's go, come on. Okay, the answer to this is B. The answer is B, limiting user access to only necessary resources. We know Ayo mentioned something like that, erased it out, and then we talked about least privilege, the principle of least privileges. Okay, question number 4. What is the purpose of input validation in secure coding? What is the purpose of share data to all those responding? Thank you very much, Maiwa. You can send the money to my account so that I can do that to everybody. What is the purpose of input validation in secure coding? A, to ensure the code runs efficiently. B, to prevent injection attacks. C, to improve user experience. D, to handle exceptions effectively. Number 4, what is the purpose of input validation in secure coding? To ensure the code runs efficiently, to prevent injection attacks, to improve user experience, to handle exceptions effectively. All right, guys, let's go, let's go, let's go. Come on, let's answer. To prevent the code that runs, to ensure, the code runs efficiently, to prevent injection attacks, to improve user experience, to handle exceptions effectively. Okay. Okay. Are we getting more responses? Honestly, guys, this is to show that we are actually following, we are taking notes, or we are listening. All right. You know, like I told you, the reason I even want us to finish this as quickly as possible, so that the learning development can share the link on the chat group for every single person to write the quiz, so that we finish everything on time. Okay. So the question again, what is the purpose? Okay, someone is complaining of network slow to respond. My network here is slow to respond. Really sorry about that, Mayowa. He said, what is the purpose of input validation in secure coding? A, to ensure the code runs efficiently. B, to prevent injection attacks. C, to improve user experience. D, to handle exceptions effectively. Okay, the answer to that is B. We've talked about this. Input validation obviously would always validate every input to prevent any sort of attack, such as SQL injection. We talked about this in one of the standards of secure coding. And the final question for today, what is the purpose of using parameterized queries or prepared statements in database interaction? We mentioned this to optimize database performance, to prevent SQL injection attacks, to encrypt sensitive data in the database, to validate user credentials during authentication. Now, let's see who was actually listening. Okay, I'm waiting for responses. What is the purpose of using parameterized queries or prepared statements? Let's go, let's answer. Let's go, let's go. The purpose of using parameterized. Someone has said, sorry, my answer is B. Are you allowed to change the option? Okay, we have 1 more minute to answer, please. Whoever wants to win at time, but he's very efficient. I know that. Very important. Okay. Answer is what? B. B. The answer is B. To prevent SQL injection. Okay. We mentioned that while we were talking about injection. That's the the third list, the third on the list of the OWASP top 10. We talked about parameterizing your queries, to prevent injection. Okay. Right, so that's the end of the quiz. So learning development, please, can I have the name of the person who got all 5 correctly? And then, yes, let me just get the name, whatever name I get from learning development. So obviously that person proves to be the winner. So learning development, I await your response. Okay, so I'm just going to conclude on this. Then I'm just going to show us quickly. We'll have to review. No problem. Once you review, the winner for today. All right. I think we can proceed. Okay. Secure coding is a critical. What if more than one person got it all? Learning development definitely will let me know that. They will review and then they send the list to me. But I'm hoping only one person got all the 5 correctly. And I said the fastest finger. Fastest finger, yeah. Okay. In conclusion, just to summarize what we've talked about, secure coding is a practical practice in building software that is resilient to attacks and protect user data. By following the secure coding principles, best practices, and continuously improving security measures, we can create a safer digital landscape. Secure coding standards are essential to ensure the code is secure, reliable, and free from vulnerabilities. Remember, this was our first slide. Make sure that your code is secure, your code is reliable, and it's free from vulnerabilities. Adopting secure coding standards is a continuous process that requires developers to stay updated with the least security best practices and tools. By incorporating secure coding standards into the development process, developers can minimize the risk of security breaches and protect sensitive data. Finally, developers should promote a culture of security awareness. This one I'm giving them for free, talking to them about it, that they should create a culture of security awareness by sharing the best practice with their team or colleagues. please, if you have it, always share the practice with your team or colleagues. It doesn't matter if they are developers or not, as long as they are within your team, share the practice with them. All right, share the practice with them. Okay, someone has a question. What's the question? Okay, I'm still waiting for the question. So always, they should also organize a training session amongst yourself. Obviously, this is a general one. Always try to even organize a training amongst yourself. Share your knowledge with your team. Let them know. Share articles and resources on secure coding practices, and always lead by example by implementing, these practices, in your code. If by promoting a culture of security awareness, you can help ensure that your team's code is secure and free from vulnerabilities. And you know that obviously it's going to make your job way easier. You understand what I'm saying? It's going to make it way easier, and then it makes life easier for you, and then you have the peace of mind. Okay, I have a question here from Ayobabale. Said, how often do you upgrade WAF to meet latest technology? I believe hackers don't sit on there. Okay, so our WAF basically is they have this. We don't control the WAF, right? It's a cloud-based security, and we have it's a combination of ideas from different security professionals all over the world. Okay, so from the vendor we use, which is Impava, these are the kind of things they kind of like update regularly. They send you updates of new security attacks or new attacks, coming on and developing every day. There's this sort of intelligence they send to us regularly. So, and they upgrade and update their system each time this, what you call it, this sort of attacks, do come. So they usually do that. What type of WAF are we using? Network-based, host-based? Like I said, cloud-based. So yeah, it's cloud-based. It's Impava WAF. You can look it up. What security has been in place to ensure the application that is being used locally within the bank is secure, local acts within? Okay, fine. For this one, we have the DAM to protect the application. We also have the firewalls and all that. And also we need to make sure that the security posture on the server and the environment is actually in place. Any sort of application, you have to put least privileges in place. This is when that one comes in. Any internal application, we run it to be sure that those the applications don't have, if they don't need to face the internet, they shouldn't have internet access. It's one of those things we look at. They don't need to face the internet. They don't need to have internet access. And also people who need to have rights on it should be the ones allowed on it. Okay, because most of these attacks you see, you say all these internet attacks is because they are facing internet, but if they're not facing internet, that you can narrow it down to internal attacks. But if they don't have the right to the servers, to the web servers, to the panels, obviously you're protecting your environment. So obviously this dies down to humans as well. How are you protecting your environment? What security measures are you taking yourself? Even if you have solutions protecting them. Yes, we have the DAM. Yes, we have firewalls. We have all these things protecting them. But you yourself, what are you doing to protect your servers? If you're managing the servers, what are you doing to protect them? Are you careless with your password and all these sort of things? So these are the kind of things you look at. So does this privilege have disadvantages? Well, e.g., a teller expected to be able to approve a transaction above his limits. Okay, but can a BSM able to post or initiate a transaction? All right, so this is based on their job roles. What's it called again? Duty separation, segregation of duties rather. So if your right does not allow you to do a particular thing, they can always seek approval to do further transaction or to do further activities. If you're not approved to do it, this is the rule of principle privilege. Whatever access you've been given is what you even says to do it. And then obviously they work in their department. This is the banking one. I don't know how they work in their department, but I'm sure that there should be a reporting line to say this is what we do. But what we need to follow is the principle of least privileges. If you're not allowed to do a particular a transaction, but just stick to what you're allowed to do. So if actually there's a need for it, and this is the case of extenuating circumstances, definitely there should be a request that is put forward to the line manager or someone who is senior and an approval has to come. And I know that the management too will be in place. They need to seek their approval before something like that is done. So to answer your question, is there any disadvantage? I would say no. I would say no, there's no disadvantage. As long as we are following the right principles, there are no disadvantages. But the only disadvantage you say is when someone is trying to override a rule without a proper approval, proper process. Okay. I hope I've been able to answer your question a bit. I think I tried a bit.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. Any more questions?
Hello, Larry.
Okay, so.
Hello, Larry. Hello, Larry.
These are my references. Who am I speaking to? That's Mr. Sam?
Yes.
Yes, I can. Yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, there's a question that I want to ask. Now,
all right.
Whatever programming language or platform that one is using for development, they are usually configuration files. And in most cases, we have values in these configuration files that are open. Like now,
sorry, you said they are open.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, the values in these configuration files are not encrypted. Now, in the days of the .NET framework, where we have the web config,
yes,
the framework has a tool that can encrypt the entire or sections of the configuration file using the machine key of where the application is deployed on.
Okay.
Now, peradventure, where the server has issue and they need to move the file out, the application to another server, it now becomes a challenge because you don't have access to that configuration file again because it's a one-way direction. You cannot reverse it. It becomes a challenge. Because
okay, I get what you mean now.
They differ. Now, coming to the .NET Core, use the configuration file.
Using the configuration file. Yes.
It does not use a web config. It uses a JSON file.
JSON file. That's correct. Yes.
And there's no tool associated with the Microsoft platform to encrypt the entire JSON file or sections of the JSON file. So what's the best way do you think we can handle such situations?
Okay, so like I said earlier, right, best practice is to use the inbuilt, right? But any case whereby you don't have something like that, I said when it comes to extenuating circumstances, do you understand what I'm saying? That is when you can now start thinking of other ways of encrypting JSON files. Do you understand? So that one is allowed, but obviously, one of the things you need to be careful with is, do you know? I want to see if you remember this. There's this. You use the jQuery when you're doing it.
No, we don't use jQuery we don't use jQuery.
Okay.
The .NET Core automatically recognizes the JSON files. So in picking values from them.
Yes. Okay. I think in this case, what I would have to do is that I have to have a look at the example. Do you understand? I will have to have a look at an example because I know that there are different ways. You know, you are aware of the node.js, right? How they encrypt, you know, JSON files.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is another way, but you know, I wouldn't say it's relative, but it depends on your code. Exactly, it depends on your code. So if you can have like a session later on, you understand, let me just have a look at it, then we can now decide. So if this is like a live thing that we are currently experiencing, if this is an issue you're currently experiencing, I would like us to actually have a meeting and have a look at it together, if that is okay.
Okay, no problem. That's fine.
All right. Okay, that's fantastic. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Someone will say, how do we tackle the need to balance security with functionality? As developers need to ensure that the code is secure, but they also need to ensure that code is functional. This can be a challenge as security can sometimes make code less functional. Right. Now, okay, I want to understand, what does it mean by security is making the code less functional? Are you talking about following the principles or putting the right standards in place? Mayowa, can you unmute your mic? I want to understand you clearly. When you say security can make it functional, are you talking about putting the right security in place? Maybe there's a WAF or there's something blocking it. In what way? Are you explaining, please? Can you explain? Hello? Mayowa, can you unmute? Is Mayowa there? Okay, I'll take it that Mayowa is offline again. Mayowa, if I be okay, Mayowa, if you get back, please, if you want to get back to me, then we'll talk, because I want to know exactly what you mean by the security is making the code less functional. Are you talking about the infrastructure or the things put in place, for example, the WAF firewall or anything? What is affecting your code to make it less functional? So what aspect of security are you talking about? So we need to narrow it down to know, because if you generalize it, then we are not going to nail it on the head. Okay. All right. So if you get this, or maybe you can get back to me, then we'll factor that out as soon as possible. All right. So like I said, these are the references. Any other questions before I proceed? Because I don't want my time to exceed where I want this to end. So like I said, I'm going to share this link